Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Adventures with Dice. I'm Rob, and I'm your host for these videos. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Icrpg 2nd Edition Core versus Icrpg Master Edition. Before we jump into that, real quick, I just want to give like a little channel update thing here, and that is about my Patreon. The link is in the description. I made some changes to the Patreon because, frankly, I'm lazy and I got a lot of irons in the fire, and I got tired of dealing with who gets what on different tiers. So I did away with all that. There's just one tier, and if you decide to support me on Patreon, it's $1 a month, and you get access to everything. Everything I put up, you get access to. So if you'd like some exclusive content, like the RPG cards I put out, Monster a month, map a month, all of my creative content is going on there. Exclusive videos, early access videos, everything's going to be on the Patreon. So for $1 a month, you can support this channel there. So let's move along. Yes, this is a one versus the other video, but it is not a one is definitely better than the other. I'm more showcasing the differences between the two books, because if you're new getting into Icrpg, or you're thinking about getting into Icrpg, it can be a little bit confusing when you go looking at books to discern which one you need to get. Do you need both? Do you need PDFs? Do you need PDFs of one and a physical of the other? What I'm going to do in this video is kind of illustrate the differences between the two that I have found, and hopefully that will help you determine which you want to get, if not both. So the first thing I think I should bring up is the difference in price. So let's knock PDFs right out. PDFs are like 16 bucks on drive-thru. And I don't know what all extra content you get with the PDFs of 2nd Edition Core. You would just have to find that out yourself. I don't know. I'm keeping most of this to the physical copy, but you can get the PDFs for like 16 bucks. You can get the physical copy of Master Edition for like 16 bucks, but then you also have to pay for shipping, which on drive-thru is a little expensive in my opinion. But accessibility. So I have found that Core, it is a paperback version, but Core has been readily available on Amazon the entire time for 35 bucks. So that's not bad. And one of the key things about any game, if you're trying to get people to play it, in my opinion, is the accessibility. Keeping it accessible and easy to get. The Master Edition, this edition here, is hardback, and it is printed by Modiphius. The problem with Modiphius is, and Runehammer has no control over this from what I understand, is they determine when they do more print runs, and they tend to let it run completely out before they do another print run, if they do another print run. So currently I believe it is unavailable on Amazon. You might be able to get it from the Modiphius site. I don't know. I've never ordered directly from them. But on Amazon, this is 50 bucks when it's available. So availability may be an issue for you. So let's look at bookcraft. And that's just the physical binding and building of the book. This is from Amazon. It is technically a print on demand, because you order it, they print it. Like this was printed in a city about an hour away from me. But the print on it is very good. The print quality of the paper is really good. The binding is really good. It's your standard paperback perfect bound book. The Master Edition, which is printed by Modiphius in Lithuania. Not that they're in Lithuania, that's where they had it printed. I don't know where Modiphius is also amazing quality. It's a beautiful book. The pages are glossy. It's just a really, really pretty book. My only problem with it, as far as the physical presentation, is it comes with these two very cool ribbons for bookmarks. One red, one black, which is kind of like the default color for this game. And it's not a fact that I have a problem with the ribbons, because I like ribbons in books. That's great. What I have a problem with is when I got mine, I don't know how well you can see this, but within a couple of days, the ends of both ribbons weren't sealed and they started to fray. Both of them pretty badly. So I had to, I don't know if you, again, you can probably see it right there, I had to tie knots in the ends of the ribbons to keep them from fraying any further. That's not a Runehammer thing, that's a Modiphius quality thing for how they had it printed, or had the book put together. So I find that to be a little bit irritating. But other than that, that's, you know, I had to tie a couple of knots. If that's the worst thing that happens to me in life, then I'm doing okay. So let's start looking at the content between the two books. Master Edition comes with one character sheet in the back, while Second Edition Core comes with 6 character sheets of different styles. So that's pretty cool. There are some beginning, not really adventures, but kind of like walk you into the game style adventures. You can kind of play by yourself or with one other person. They're called trials. There's only one of those in Master Edition. That's the Grey Hill Inferno. And there are like 3 of them in Second Edition Core. So you have a little bit more to choose from there. Let's see. Second Edition Core also has tons of adventure seeds. Some of them linked to character types, character classes. Some of them linked to locations. There are several full-on adventures in the back of the book. Sci-fi adventures, fantasy adventures, even a Call of Cthulhu style adventure, which is what drew me in immediately when I saw that. Excuse me. Now, one thing that is missing from Core are maps. You have your 2 main settings in Core, which is Alfheim, the fantasy setting, and Warp Shell, the sci-fi setting. That both of them have a great deal of description, but no maps in the book for locations. So you're kind of left to place things where you want to. Whereas Master Edition includes pretty good detail on the areas, and it has a world map and then breaks the areas down by section with maps as well. So you definitely get more maps in Master Edition. One of the neat things in Master Edition that I like for both Warp Shell and Alfheim is in the beginning of those settings, when you're going to make a character, there's a list of 6 things, okay, 6 events that are major events in the world, and it's called 6 Things Everyone Knows. And it's 6 little story seeds, basically, that you can use to tie your character's backstory directly into the events going on in the world of whichever one you're playing. And I think that's really neat, and that's not in Core. So that little bit is missing. There's also a clear advance in the story's timeline, at least in Alfheim, I know. There's an advance in the timeline between the 2 books. For instance, King Henrik is alive and ruling in Core, but then you go to Master Edition and King Henrik goes, one of the first things that everybody knows in the 6 things that your character knows, King Henrik is missing. Nobody knows what happened to him. So there's little things like that that have advanced. 6 things everybody knows. The writing and layout in Master Edition is very, very tight. It's very, it's been tightened up a lot, cleaned up a lot. It's very concise. I really like the layout. I like the way it's designed. It's easy to read. To be fair, both of them are, but I do like the layout and the tightness of the writing in Master Edition a little bit better. Master Edition also has 3 extra settings outside of Alfheim and Warp Shell. You have, let's see, Ghost Mountain, which is like the weird western. You have Vigilante City from Bloat Games transferred over to Icrpg, which is their superhero setting. And then you have Blood and Snow, which is kind of a prehistoric fantasy thing. So those are all pretty cool. Now, in core, I do think that there are certain things that are explained a little better or explained in more detail. Now, keep in mind, I know this is a do-it-yourself system and you can throw your own rules in there wherever you want to, and that's cool. It's very cool. But sometimes you want to just see how the rules work per who wrote them, I guess. That's a really weird way to put that, but, you know, okay. So, like, there are things that are explained better, like gear and weapons are explained a little better, and they have tags. And the rules for using tags are in here, but not in Master Edition. It touches on tags some in Blood and Snow, but as far as in the core rules, it's not really in there. In here, they have tons of tags. It's explained really well how to use them, and once I understood what tags were and how to use them on weapons, I loved it. Weapons, gear, monsters, even. One of the things that I found that was pretty different between the two was the rules on recovery. In Master Edition, and I'm talking about recovery of hearts, recovery of your hit points. In Master Edition, it goes into recovery, how you do it with bandaging in combat, and how you do it with magical healing. And then it says you'll find other ways as you play. And that's fine because the GM can make it up as however they want their natural healing to work. But it is explained in more detail in here with how much, if you're in a safe place and resting, how much heart or hit points you regain per day or week or month or whatever. And I like that that's in here. There's also other little things like how loot is divided up and the difficulty of chests, because you don't want every chest that has to be opened to have to be opened with, you know, a heart's worth of effort. There's different levels of the chest for loot and drops, really, that you get from fallen enemies. All of that is explained in much more detail in this book. Now, does that mean that you don't have any explanation or anything to go on? No, Master Edition has that too, just not as in as much detail as this does. However, there is enough detail there that you can easily make it up yourself. That's fine. But I like to be able to draw, and I end up drawing from both books, to be honest with you. Let's see, what else do we have? There is, in the Master Edition, there is a thing called Mastery. And what Mastery is, and you have a little tracker on your character sheet, is you have 20 little boxes on there, and every time you roll a crit, successful crit, not a crit fail, but every time you roll a crit, you get to mark off a box. When you mark off 20 boxes, then you get to pick a Mastery ability from your class, and you gain that ability. And there's 3 to gain, so it would take 60. Because you erase, after you get 20, you erase and start over. But it would take 60 crits to get all 3. Could be done. In my first game, I had one character get like 4 crits. I mean, he was on fire. So, not literally, you know, rolling good. So, I don't set my players on fire. But anyway, Mastery is a neat little thing that's added in to the character design in Alfheim and Warp Shell in the Master Edition that is not in Core. So, if you're just using Core, that's something you might want to add in. Or you might not. So I'm going to be bouncing around here a little bit because there's other stuff to talk about. You have monsters in the Monster Maker in both books. The Monster Maker in Mastery Edition is more detailed and gives a little more guidance, in my opinion, than the one in Core, but either one are actually usable. Now, looking at the monster section, simply the monster section, not the settings. Second edition Core comes with 29 monsters plus the Monster Maker. Master Edition comes with 48 monsters and the Monster Maker. And the Monster Maker is more detailed, in my opinion. So, and again, I think this comes from the fact that the writing is a bit tighter in this section. It's definitely tighter on the monsters. In this section, you're getting like 2 monsters per page, or 1 monster per page. All right, and in Core, everything is tightened up quite a bit. Not Core, I'm sorry, Mastery Edition. Everything is tightened up a lot more to where you have 2 per page. So when you open the book, you have 4 monsters, because it gives you exactly just the detail you need. Some of the monsters have been reworked a bit, and I used mostly the monsters out of here, but they're both really good. Master Edition comes with 19 more monsters than Core. And I went through and listed them out. So you have, these are the extra monsters that Core doesn't have. You can make all of these, but they're not in the book. The Angel, the Avenger, the Demon, the Devil Dust, the Feeder, the Fiend, the Flamekin, the Ghost, the Hellion, the Imps, the Laywalker, the Mainframe, the Outsider, the Phase Hulk, the Rings, the Scarecrow, the Seraph, the Terror, What Were Once Men. And then a pretty big layout on Durothrax, the big dragon for the setting. Gets a 2 or 3 page layout on her. You also have in the, no, hold on, let's not get into that yet. In the adventures, okay, in the book, there are extra monsters. So What Were Once Men or in the main monster section here are actually, they first show up in one of the adventures here. So though you have 29 monsters in this one, in the adventures in the book, you also have mutant reptoids, Reptoid Gargantha, Tortons show up in here for the first time. Invincibles, What Were Once Men, show up in here in the adventures. Shamblers, Grave Slime, Sarvis the Ageless, Arden Mannerstaff, the Children, Lord Arden, Sweepers, Death Drones, and Imperator Rex are all extra things that are in the adventures in this book. Now you have Azael the Defiler and 12 supervillains as well from the adventures in this book. So there's a lot of monsters to choose from. There's a lot of really cool Monster Maker stuff for designing your own monsters, and that's really neat. I've done some of that. I actually put one of them up so far on my Patreon, which is the Mind Slayer. My take on the Mind Flayer. Let's see. You have some of the stuff from the Blood and Snow adventure. You have the Advanced Magic section in the back, which comes from the Magic book that he did, which gives you a more detailed and kind of chunky, more rules-heavy Magic version if you want that. I prefer the lighter, faster Magic version that's from the main rules. And Blood and Snow also gives you the Sabertooth, the Giant, the River Giant, the Cave Bear, and the Anaconda. You have Ghost Mountain and Magic Loot tables added to the Master Edition, which are not in Core. So those are the main differences that I have found between the two books. This book has some really great stuff. It's missing some of the stuff that Master Edition has, but Master Edition is missing some of the stuff that Core has. the stuff that's missing either way can be made up by the DM, so you don't have to have both books. If you do have both books, then it's very easy to kind of use them as one reference for running your game, which is what I do. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have physical copies of both books. You could, if you really like Core, you could get a PDF of Master Edition or vice versa. Or you could get PDFs of both editions. A lot of people like playing off of PDFs these days. I prefer to have the physical book for actually running the game, and PDFs are more for me when I'm on the go, or I need to print stuff out to have on the table to help my players in the game. Excuse me. They both have things to offer, so they're both really, really good books. And I hope that by doing this video, I've kind of shown you, and I know there was a lot of back and forth, but there's a lot of little differences. The rules are pretty much the same between the two. The character class progression layout is different. Not a lot. It's just some stuff, some choices added in Master Edition for Alfheim and Warp Shell for your characters. But then the other settings in there use the character advancements that's in here for your milestones and whatnot. It's still easy to traverse back and forth between the two. They're both, again, fantastic books. I use them both. You don't have to use them. You can do a lot of your stuff on your own. The rules are mostly the same. There are a few little tweaks here and there, like, for instance, the dying die. So when you hit 0 hit points in combat, on your next turn, according to these rules, you roll a d6. And you have that many rounds for a miracle to happen or somebody to get to you and save you before you die. But in Master Edition, it's a d4. And I assumed this was because the d6 was too forgiving. And I did ask Hankrin about this, and he said, yeah, that's exactly why he changed it to a d4, because the d6 is too forgiving. It didn't have that that push of urgency for somebody to get to a downed player, especially if they roll a 6. You know, you got 6 turns to get to them. 6 turns is a long time in combat to get stuff done. So when I'm running it, you get a d4. Again, this is when I say versus, this is not one is better than the other, because honestly, I wouldn't want to run the game without both books, which I'm a completist. If I get into something, I want everything for it. And I love both of these books for different reasons. Now, you may not. You may only want to pick up one book. And if so, I hope that this video helps you decide which one you want, because they both have great things to offer. They both have great stuff to bring to the table. And if you can't afford to get both of them, or maybe you can only afford to get one, maybe this video helps you decide which one you want to get and then pick up a PDF of the other one. I don't know. I noticed the differences, and other people have talked about them too. Con Klein has talked about them on his page, on his channel, I'm sorry, which is a great channel. Go check it out. He does a lot of really cool stuff for Icrpg. But I don't know. It's I cannot at the end of the day say one is better than the other. Now, I do tend to favor a lot of the rules out of Core, but I'm still using rules out of Master Edition too. And I'm doing what we as game masters do with pretty much every game. I'm sure there's some game masters out there who run, they buy a game and run it strictly by the book. But a lot of us, and I know I'm like this, we tend to immediately get a game and start hacking and changing stuff. I don't know why. I guess it's just our creative spirit that cuts loose. But having both of these books makes it really fun to hack and change things. And some of your monsters have a little bit of difference between the two books. And that can be fun too, to, throw the same monster, looks the same. same type of monster, but maybe there's a slight variation between the two on how it works. That can be a lot of fun too. So again, I'm rambling at this point, but I wanted to illustrate the differences between the two. There may be more differences between them that I haven't mentioned. If you know some of the differences between the two and want to post them in the comments, that'd be fantastic. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share, subscribe, that whole YouTube algorithm jazz. And until next time, my friends, good gaming and good luck.